and welcome to this episode of CXO Cafe, a series of learning interactions with CIOs and technology leaders of large enterprises. I'm Anil Chopra, VP Research and Consulting at CyberMedia Research, and your host for this episode. Our theme for this series is workplace trends for the new normal, and we'll be discussing various topics related to this in this series. So in this episode, we are going to be discussing today rethinking healthcare delivery in a post-pandemic world. Now, the pandemic has really stretched our healthcare system to its limits, but thankfully, it has been able to withstand the COVID pressure. Hopefully, we've left the worst behind us and won't have to face such severe outbreaks anymore. The situation has caused some fundamental shifts in the healthcare system, with care going virtual, greater focus on ensuring that all interactions between caregivers and patients are safe and healthy. What are some of these fundamental shifts? How have needs really evolved of both caregivers and takers? What are the challenges faced by IT to cater to them? And is there a permanent shift to telehealth? To discuss this and many other aspects of rethinking healthcare delivery in a post-pandemic world, we have with us today Arvind Sivaramakrishnan, the certified health CIO at Apollo Hospitals. Apollo Hospitals has become the largest integrated private hospital group in Asia over the last 5 years, with expertise in managing hospitals, clinics, health insurance, healthcare IT, telemedicine, education, pharmacy retail, and medical business process outsourcing. The group owns and manages over 10,000 beds across 51 hospitals, 1,517 pharmacies, and 102 clinics, and holds the distinction of being the first among Indian hospitals to be accredited by Joint Commission International USA. Driven by the vision of its chairman, Dr. Pratap C. Reddy, the Apollo Hospitals Group pioneered corporate healthcare in India. Arvind is a digital transformation expert with experience in IT management consulting and IT adoption for business process transformation. A domain expert in healthcare IT, Arvind specializes in architecting and building solutions for enterprise-wide applications, managing large IT enterprises to drive business effectiveness by adopting effective digital technologies and implementing intranet-based applications with data warehousing and analytics capabilities. He has also handled both distributed as well as co-located delivery teams. Welcome to the CXO Cafe, Arvind.
Namaste. Good morning to all of you, and thank you for having me here today.
It's a pleasure to have you with us today. Now, as I was just mentioning a number of things, but as you know, that the whole country has actually seen the excellent way in which India's healthcare system has tackled the COVID situation despite being under so much pressure. Tell us about some of the experiences you faced as an IT leader, and how did you really leverage technology to resolve them?
I think the pressures that we felt was to ensure that all business runs as usual and runs normal. And I say runs as usual and normal primarily because despite having a lockdown where there was physical barriers for people to move around, uh, and despite the advisory around elective care to be reduced, healthcare as such just cannot be reduced. You have people who are possibly going in for surgery. You had people who had probably just had their hospital treatment. It may not always be a surgery, but it could be some hospital treatment. People who are on a continuous care process, people who are due for the next round of their treatment, whatever be the treatment. And again, I don't want to make any treatment sound more important than the other, because we all understand that health is a personal topic. And even if it is something as simple as common cold or regular fever, the sense of panic that happens in an individual and the family around them, and depending on the age of the person they are caring for, is well known to all of us as individuals. So, in this situation, making sure that the healthcare is available, that is one aspect of it. That is looking at the consumer or the customer. Then the second aspect is for the providers. How do we ensure that the health system is functional? Health system does not only mean doctors and nurses. Indeed, they are very, very important parts of our ecosystem, no doubt. But then the health system has also got the entire operational team, the medical team, the paramedical team, the associated ancillary team, and the supplier network that makes all of this happen. Uh, Something as simple as we need to ensure that all the engineering support for equipments are available, because all the biomedical equipments need to be used, and thereby their related supplies. And remember, all these in the hard rule of medical industry may not qualify. We've all seen the difficulty in classification. It's These are facts of life. So ensuring that such like relationships are there. And in a situation where we were in a lockdown, in a situation where I think the organization was mature enough to figure out how we can continue to leverage. And one benefit that we had, I must say, is that we've been on a digital journey for a very long time. So that means that the situation was not new to us. The scale of the situation is unknown to anybody. So let's not even, if I say that, oh, we were all prepared and all that, come on. Nobody ever thought of things like this. DR and BCP, all of us thought was a 24-hour work, not a 24-month work. And that's what it's turned out to be. So clearly we've been looking at it in terms of how can we see these and continue services. So tight coordination between the teams and using all the digital services as the fundamental layer. That's why I'm focusing on the process, because the technology becomes the DNA of the organization. The technology becomes the underlying principle with which we are functioning. So when we were able to do that, and the coordination and management and the overlay of all of that using technology, because the physical connects were automatically reduced, even though we were all in the hospital. Obviously, we were all advised to minimize physical contact, because at the time this started, no one knew what was going on in terms of the spread. So while the healthcare industry was physically on-prem, there was nothing like a work from home. So in fact, I did want to comment on that also, that the instructions for today's discussion was make sure that you have a quiet place in the home. And for healthcare workers, I think we are requiring to find a quiet place to go to. We've not found that in the last 24 months. So that's kind of our situation. But all those are how we looked at transition, and good operational management with a seamless support as well as a transition to use all of this for every service, not limited to end user patient care. I think all of this came together, and that's how we were able to ensure that we are able to cater to the situation that all of us were into.
Great. So much. And as you rightly said that, for healthcare, you cannot really find a quiet corner at home, because you have to be, at the hospital to find a place to actually work, which basically, brings me to another interesting point that, so how are the, collaboration needs of caregivers different than those from the corporate world? How have these needs evolved during this COVID period, and what are some of the challenges faced by IT in meeting those needs?
I think when you look at collaboration needs, there are multiple aspects of it. One is ensuring that there is sufficient video as well as audio. And the moment you start talking video, you're talking of a good network capacity, so that the network is stable and the picture that is seen is clear. And here, picture that is seen is clear is not just a person-to-person interaction. You're going to be having a clinical interaction. So if I have to have a clinical interaction, if I'm going to be doing a teleconsultation where you're seeing the patient on that side and the patient is having some complaint, the visual of that has to be effective for making the next level of diagnosis and giving the next set of instruction. At the same time, if you're going to be looking at some imaging results like an X-ray or a CT or an MRI or an ultrasound, any type of a result, we need to ensure that those are also of a good quality, because as you're aware, these have grayscales and the grayscales need to be clear. so that you see what is there or what is not there. So that is one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is also the need to have a multi-way conversation. There could be multiple caregivers, meaning doctors from different specialties, who need to be together to advise a patient or the patient family member on what next. And many times it is not only one family member, we are familiar with it, there will be multiple people in the family also. So this multi-point communication is also something that is very important. Now, all of this is fine in terms of communication, but then also the privacy and security of this communication. To be very blunt, who are you and why should I be talking to you? And under what authority am I talking to you? Sometimes it sounds very rude when you ask this question. But then when you start looking at it from a privacy and security standpoint, there is a whole realm of unwanted activities that the industry could be prone to voluntarily or involuntarily. And when I say voluntarily, human behavior as to interest in a particular subject and the level of authority on the subject. So I am his uncle. Can you tell me the details? And uncle is a very broad word. You know, in our society, calling anybody brother and sister is also a very broad word. All of us are brothers and sisters to a good part of the society. But then you put it under the lens of privacy and security, you need to manage it well. The third aspect comes in terms of when you're communicating, are you communicating the consent also appropriately? Because that consent needs to be told to everybody and that consent needs to be understood and documented. So all these were various aspects of it. And then communication also between the organization and between the providers. That was something that was equally important for us to achieve, because those, you look at it, doctor to doctor communication, doctor to the lab or the diagnostic communication, doctor to physiotherapy and the allied healthcare, doctor to dietitian, doctor to pharmacist. Each needs to coordinate so that then they will be able to coordinate to the patient or their family members. Similarly, communication requirements that we had in the difficult time of communicating the status of the inpatient. Many people were admitted, as we are all aware of. How do we communicate that to the family? Because people are not allowed to see a infectious disease patient for safety of multiple aspects. But we have to communicate the status. You have to communicate progress, and in a very difficult situation, you have to communicate bad news. So all these are also communication aspects that were there, audio and visual. Now the third aspect of this comes also in the written communication that needs to go in. That means secure communication from the source to the destination. I'm saying source and destination so that it's a little more broad based, but from the source to the destination and making that communication secure. So all of these were this multi-dimensional aspects of communication and the frequency of that communication. So having processes on the frequency of communication, having internal organizational checklists to ensure that we have communicated everything and we have not forgotten to communicate something. Hey, come on, all of us are going through a stressful situation. So I may not remember everything. I don't intend to hide anything from you, but did I remember to say that to you? Very simple. During the COVID, people would have asked, hey, did they tell you the SpO2 value? Did you remember to say it? Because you would have communicated. It's not like you're trying to hide something. Did you remember? So checklists. So this is where our reinforcement of quality and the reinforcement of checklists and the reinforcement of colleagues who are catering for each other. This is where we are looking at a multi-point communication driven by quality, driven by science, not by memory. So driven by science, that means all of this is documented in the electronic systems that help the care progression. So that we are not only talking of today, but we are talking of the comparison of today versus 3 days ago. See, yesterday the temperature was so much, day before it is so much, such, drawing a picture of that. So communication is also about critical health data in a structured manner that relates to outcomes. All that communicated in a scientific manner so that everybody is able to understand, perceive what is happening and what is perceived to happen as next steps, what they call as prognosis.
Thank you. I think very nicely explained about the collaboration between so many people, about the quality. I mean, it's very different from how one would see it happening in the corporate world. You also mentioned, they refer to things like, have you forgotten to mention SpO2 level, which basically means that, when I come back to on the pandemic part of it, saying that, though everyone today talks about being in a post-pandemic world, but we are still not really out of it yet. So, while you talked about a lot about the communication aspect of things, I would like to understand from you, how is the healthcare system now really evolving in these times? Are we, for instance, now seeing emergence of things like tech-enabled clinical models, remote patient care, and things like that?
Absolutely, and actually, also leading from your previous question to this question, first and foremost, how is the system evolving? We have to take care of our own staff. Communication, no doubt, with the patient, the family members, and all that. But we need to keep our staff also on a high morale basis, because seeing sadness and difficulties all around, and let's not undermine the sadness and the difficulties that was extremely prevalent, some due to fear, some due to lack of information, some genuinely sadness and difficult situations. So keeping our employee morale. So one aspect of it was also, how is the health system evolving? Keeping that train of knowledge, keeping that train of skill, and the availability of people upskilled, trained to do multifarious activities, not siloing in, because the system demands that a person is able to do much, because what we have to cater to is much larger than what we have together as a humanity. The number of healthcare workers on the planet far outnumbers the number of people who need the care, especially during the pandemic. So keeping that skill, that is one way by which organizations shifted in terms of how to evolve that, how to multi-skill laterally and vertically, both of which was very important for us. Second, evolving capacities. So rather than answering your question on digital modes of care or tele modes of care, I would say bringing in capacities, because you're looking at physical capacity and virtual capacity, and finding protocols and pathways that are guided by data translated to insights, that are powering decision making, that is powering evidence-based care practices. Very important to look at evidence-based care practices, because it is just not one care practice. It is a care practice that has to be made 24/7, 365 across all types of people. When one particular caregiver is, let us say, taking rest because they've been working over an extended period of time, when they are taking rest, when the care is being provided, it has to be provided the same quality and the outcome level. So evidence-based care practices, driven by data, driven by technology, powered by technology, that ensures that quality of outcomes is always done at the best of the best and never compromised. And reinforcing that with people, because people run through emotions, they are not at their best spirits all through the time. They may be knowledgeable, they may be skilled, but there are ups and downs that people go through. How can we, but whenever they are in a health system, they're taking care of a life. That responsibility of a life is there, irrespective of the state of the emotion. So powering that with technology and making sure that all of this is available. And then ensuring that, if I may use the word, business as usual, always running, because regular care needs beyond the pandemic infection control has not taken a holiday. Regular care needs continue to happen. How do you provide that? So alternate modes of it through remote healthcare, assisted devices, use of IoTs, use of telehealth in various aspects, not only teleconsultation. You're looking at teleradiology, you're looking at telepathology, telecardiology where ECG overreads happen. You're looking at tele ICUs where we are able to monitor other ICUs and keep care. You're looking at telesurgeries where surgeries are monitored and mentored by others. So you're looking at a multifarious mode of empowering that using technology techniques. And the technique could be the traditional technique or a mobility based technique, all of that put in a perspective. But all of those are not only helping providing care, but see here you are providing more capacity. Otherwise, getting all of these people in a physical location and providing you don't have that many hands and legs. So now you're seeing that the whole geography is an irrelevant concept. The physical, the doctor could be in some place and the patient can be in some place and still that quality of care is being provided. That makes it sure that you're able to triage the needs of the care so that the right skilled person is able to take care of the right need of the healthcare. Many a times it has to be physical because of the nature of the care, but at least you're creating capacity. With all of this said and done, there is still a capacity problem and we are all aware of it. But I think technology now is providing that ability and that alternate surety of a solution. How do we further scale it? How do we make sure that this is part of the go forward mainstream? I think that's what time is going to tell us. But I think that surety and that confidence on the system and the confidence on both the quality and the delivery has been proven now beyond doubt. Now we need to make it mainstream, we need to further scale, and definitely we need to innovate more and more and more. Have we reached it? Clearly not. I think we have found light. We need to go in search of it, is where I would say. Won't claim victory under any circumstance, but high degree of optimism is what I would say.
Yes, thank you. As you rightly said, I think it's not possible to have everyone physically present in one place. What you need to do is build up the capacity, and it's not just about patient doctor thing. It's about multiple things in telehealth. All those departments, everything has to be done in a remote fashion, and you have to have the technology, which actually brings me to another very interesting question. You mentioned that we've seen the light at the end of the tunnel, but yeah, we are getting there. So the question is that now are we really seeing a permanent shift to this kind of a thing where there is contactless healthcare services, telemedicine, and all the tele healthcare that you really referred to? And more importantly, you said that we have to keep innovating. But how is IT really currently enabling this and your own expectations from IT to enhance it further in the future? I mean, technology is a key role to play. So therefore, you must be having some expectations from IT to really, really make it happen.
Are we going to have this as a permanent setting for our providing our healthcare? Very difficult to answer that question today, but I answer that with a confidence that given that we have shown the ability for these alternate modes of care to be provided at scale and quality, definitely the consumer is going to choose that. So if I've got to come to work, let's say no pandemic and regular day, I'm coming to work, but I also need to do a doctor's appointment. And the doctor also feels that unnecessarily you don't need to come to the office, hospital premises or the hospital premises for that. He would clearly be comfortable doing the consultation. So the doctor is also able to slot it, triage it, as well as deliver it. And you're also the health system overall, not just the hospital, I'm saying the health system is able to put the right level of person for the right care needs. Because there should not be an imbalance of somebody who's very senior seeing a case that is not requiring that level of seniority. Instead, that senior person with that expertise is going to be seeing and taking care of a more difficult situation. That's a better use of the talent and the expertise. So I think that model is there. That model has been exhibited. So I have definite confidence that this model will also be used. At what degree? Honestly, time is only going to tell us, but I'm hoping that it will be a pretty high mix, a good mix of the traditional ways by which we were providing care. Now, when it comes to that, now what is the expectation of IT? I think IT has become the electricity. You have no idea where your electricity is coming from. Of course, we all read about coal and diesel and nuclear power and solar power, but you don't know where your do you know where your electricity is coming from? I think IT to healthcare is becoming that. IT to healthcare should become that. So my expectation of IT is we don't talk about it. We only experience it. That means that we are delivering at that capacity that is truly mission critical. That means that we need to evolve health IT as a talent. We need to evolve health IT as a, a field. We need to evolve health IT as a valid employment and a career. Today you have IT, you have health. Health IT is a convenient mixture. I think it needs to become center stage because it is an evolving field. It is a field that has good career prospects. It is a field that has plenty of opportunities. So I think my expectation of IT is to ensure that we are able to provide that warranty and guarantee that we expect out of the surety of healthcare. And all the words that I used can only be answered by God. Nobody other than God can provide that because we are talking of human life here. I vision a day where IT is able to play a significant constructive role in providing all of that into ensuring that the way by which health delivery is done, and when I say health delivery, I don't mean only critical care settings, I mean health delivery in any aspect, including staying healthy and continuing to stay healthy in a well guided manner. That's also healthcare being provided. You don't need to be sick and come and no, you can stay healthy and just be healthy, but healthy in a guided manner. That is where we can profoundly use the social media solutions to pass on the right information, well guided, well documented, scientific information that completely eliminates all the gossip mongering around techniques of health, sometimes leading to bad advice. So, guided by science, powered by technology, and ensuring that we provide that surety. That's my expectation out of IT.
Thanks. I think really the example that you have given of IT like electricity really is sounds really logical that you have to experience it and not necessarily see what IT can do, and you need to have that surety from IT to be able to provide the level of care that is really required. So one last question, parting question, although you have very nicely illustrated the need for IT, expectation from IT, but you might want to just add something in the end in terms of some of the fundamental shifts that have happened in healthcare and how are they really impacting the sector's future.
I think if you look at IT in healthcare, I think people are getting into better modes of planning and better modes of collaboration with the business users to understand and forecast. At the same time, for the IT team itself, the knowledge levels and the execution to precision is something that is being underscored more and more. So IT processes are maturing and IT execution is being more done with a higher degree of maturity and quality. So within IT, I think the transition, or if I may call it even the revolution of process maturity, is happening in a very, very agile manner because there is a demand from the outside. The demand from the outside is real, the demand from the outside is immediate. So that revolution of maturity over the other industries which have taken many years in the healthcare sector is now drawing down to days and minutes. So I think that part of IT is maturing. That part of process ingrainment is there. Where I would like to further see something is the partnership between the IT consumption industry, like the healthcare, and the IT providing industry, which is the core IT sector, in terms of ensuring that the costs are sustainable. The costs match the expectation of the economy. The cost match the paying power of the average consumer across all the sectors, not just conveniently one sector of salaried class. You have to look at salaried class also in terms of the variation of the monies that are there across the segment of society. Everything needs to be considered. You need to look at governmental care and private based care, but sustainability of the cost and the surety of the support of the technologies that we are consuming, because the power of the technology is immense. But I would call upon the IT industry also to partner in this journey to make it effective at the right pricing, effective at the right level of support, effective at the right level of talent. I think all of that is required for everybody. It is not just calling upon one set of people to deliver. I think together all of us need to come together, not just industry and the service industry, but also all of us as society need to come together and play a responsible role. And responsible role does not mean free. It needs to be done in the right quantum so that it is sustainable as an economy. I think that's my expectation of the IT also maturing, not just to talk technology, but IT maturing to talk about sustainability in an economy, not just for the health sector, but also considering the sectors from which it is drawing support and it is giving support. So I think we need to mature also in that front. That maturity is happening today, but I think it can happen at a better pace.
Thank you, Arvind. I think, some insights were really, really great. Thanks for joining us today and sharing all those insights. Very, very valid points in terms of how the IT sector should be coming together. It has been a real pleasure to do this interaction with you.
Thank you very much. Namaste to you and pleasure talking to you.
Yes, thank you. Well, that's all we have for you today. We hope you enjoyed watching this episode of CXO Cafe and found the insights really interesting and useful. We'll be back again soon with more interesting chats around other aspects of new workplace trends. So stay tuned and thanks for watching CXO Cafe and see you again soon. Thank you.